Hostage situations represent a harrowing intersection of morality, strategy, and international law. The world watches, often with bated breath, as governments grapple with agonizing choices. Do they negotiate, risking the lives of hostages for a chance at their safe return? Or do they engage in rescue attempts, fraught with their own inherent dangers and uncertainties? This dilemma, faced by nations across the globe, carries profound implications, often with lasting consequences. The capture and detention of innocent individuals are deplorable acts of terrorism and barbarity. Such acts represent a fundamental violation of human rights, striking at the very core of our shared humanity. The perpetrators of these heinous crimes seek to instill fear, disrupt societies, and advance their perverse ideologies through the suffering of others. The international community must present a united front against hostage-taking, condemning it in the strongest possible terms. It is not merely a crime against the individual victims, but an assault on our collective conscience. We must work together to create a world where such acts are unthinkable, let alone tolerated. Israel, facing unique security challenges in a volatile region, has repeatedly found itself at the center of the hostage crisis debate. The nation's unwavering commitment to protecting its citizens is often met with a perplexing double standard, where its actions are scrutinized more harshly than those of other countries facing similar situations. This bias, rooted in a complex web of historical narratives and geopolitical considerations, demands a closer examination. Israel's right to engage in hostage rescue operations is not merely a legal right, but a moral imperative. Every nation has an inherent duty to protect its citizens from harm, and this duty extends to the realm of international terrorism. When diplomacy fails and negotiations prove futile, a nation must be prepared to take decisive action to save the lives of its people. To suggest otherwise is to deny the fundamental right of a nation to defend its own. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, have developed a well-deserved reputation for their expertise in hostage rescue, honed through years of experience and a commitment to minimizing casualties. Operations like Entebbe and more recent missions demonstrate the IDF's unwavering dedication to bringing their people home, often at great risk to their own soldiers. Too often, the international community falls into the trap of focusing on the actions of a nation responding to a hostage crisis, rather than unequivocally condemning the initial act of hostage-taking. This misplaced emphasis creates a perverse incentive structure where terrorists are emboldened, knowing that their actions will be met with a muted response, while nations are pressured to prioritize appeasement over the safety of their citizens. It is paramount that we shift the narrative. The blame for any violence that occurs during a hostage rescue attempt must lie squarely at the feet of the hostage takers. They are the ones who initiated the crisis, who put innocent lives at risk, and who created a situation where the use of force might become necessary. Condemning the act of hostage-taking should not be a matter of political expediency, but a matter of unwavering principle. By focusing on the root cause of the problem, we can begin to create a world where hostage-taking is no longer seen as a viable tactic. This requires a concerted effort from the international community to hold perpetrators accountable, to support the victims of these heinous crimes, and to work towards a future where such acts are relegated to the dustbin of history. Section 4. A mother's plea humanizing the stakes. Imagine, if you will, the plight of a mother whose son or daughter has been taken hostage. Their child, once a source of joy and pride, is now a pawn in a deadly game, their life hanging precariously in the balance. The anguish, the fear, the desperate hope for their child's safe return, these are the human stakes that transcend the cold calculations of geopolitics. This mother doesn't care about political ideologies or historical grievances. She cares about one thing and one thing only, the safe return of her child. She would move heaven and earth, would sacrifice anything to hold her child in her arms once more. In this scenario, the mother represents the countless families torn apart by the scourge of hostage-taking. Their pain is universal, their love knows no bounds, and their right to hope for their loved one's safe return is absolute. Section 5. International responses. A study in contrasts. The international community's response to hostage situations has been marked by a curious inconsistency, often influenced by political considerations and regional biases. When Western nations have engaged in rescue operations, the response has often been muted, with a focus on the complexities of the situation and the need for restraint. However, when Israel takes decisive action to protect its citizens, it is often met with a chorus of condemnation, accusations of disproportionate force, and calls for investigations. This double standard, rooted in a deep-seated bias against Israel, undermines the very principles of fairness and objectivity that should guide international relations. This is not to say that all criticism of hostage rescue operations is unwarranted. Any loss of life, whether hostage or rescuer, is a tragedy. However, the assessment of such operations must be conducted through an objective lens, free from political posturing and double standards. Section 6. The unwavering right to protect citizens. The right of a nation to protect its citizens is not negotiable. It is a fundamental principle enshrined in international law and a moral imperative that transcends political ideologies. When faced with the agonizing choice between negotiating with terrorists and taking military action, nations have a right, indeed a duty, to prioritize the lives of their citizens. The international community must recognize this right and support nations acting in good faith to rescue their people from the clutches of terrorists. We must move beyond the double standards and biases that have plagued this issue for far too long. The fight against hostage-taking is a fight for our shared humanity. It is a fight against barbarity, a fight for justice, and a fight for a world where every human life is valued and protected.